Hey guys, Jason over here at Cog Hill Farm. In today's video, this will be part one of a 5-part series of a 3-day Whole Hog Workshop that was hosted by Matthew Burks at his homestead in Tennessee. It was taught by Hand Hewn Farm out of Ohio. If you don't know who Hand Hewn is, I'll put a link down below to their website so you can definitely check it out. But Andy and Doug from Hand Hewn came and taught this 3-day Whole Hog Workshop, and they are two amazing butchers and meatsmiths. And if you ever get a chance or the opportunity to participate or partake in any of their courses, don't hesitate to do it. It is amazing, and you'll learn so much. But this is part one of the 5-part video series, and I've just edited down all the footage into 5 videos. So these classes and workshops are way more in depth than what my video shows, but it kind of gives you an idea of what it's like. So I hope you enjoy this video series, and this is part one. And let me set the tone real quick. This first day was outside and it rained the entire time. It was dreary, raining, and it never slacked up. But we definitely all had an amazing time, even through the weather. I hope y'all enjoy.
I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Wendell Berry, but he's a role model of mine, poet, farm, called For the Hog Killing. Let them stand still for the bullet and stare the shooter in the eye. Let them die while the sound of the shot is in the air. Let them die as they fall. Let the jugular blood spring hot to the knife. Let its freshet be full. Let this day begin again the change of hogs into people, not the other way around. For today we celebrate again our lives' wedding with the world. For by our hunger, by this provisioning, we renew the bond. But getting a good clean shot on a pig is a challenge, especially if you have a 22. The window is just very small, and pigs don't like to hold still. If you can shoot a pig while it's sleeping, that is about as good as it gets. It's also hard to shoot a pig while it's eating. So if you want to call it over to you and you pour feed out, you know that they're going to come. But if there's more than one of them, and there always should be, then they're going to be fighting with one another and moving constantly. And getting a pig to hold still is a real challenge. That isn't always a problem, but if it is, then a bowl of water or milk or something that they can drink goes a long way, because when they're drinking, they hold their head really still and slurp. And during that 5 to 6 second window, the pig is perfectly still. Now you have to be ready if you're the one with the gun. You have to be ready, because they don't drink a lot. They'll drink and then they'll go back and eat for a long time. So the 410 does exactly what we want, with a small penetration and enough concussive force to knock it out. Where we shoot is roughly 2 to 2 1/4 inches above where the eyes cross at the bottom. You can read or find all kinds of information or charts about like an X between the ears and the eyes. We don't use that as a model, because every pig's head is different. Like, that existed when all the pigs were pink and they were in like the slaughterhouse, and there weren't the variety of heritage breed pigs that there are today. But today we can go, I have not laid eyes on these pigs, but like sometimes it has a real long snout and a gentle slope, and other times it's a short snout and like a shelf at the forehead. Like the X thing just doesn't work there. But we know that if you're about 2 inches above where the eyes cross, and you're perpendicular to the skull, then you're going to hit the brain, almost always the frontal lobe of the brain. As soon as the pig drops, sometimes it'll roll over on its own. If it doesn't, we help it, because in that real immediate window, we like to get in there with the knife, and we look for just behind or under the jaw. You can tell, even if it's a fatty, jowly pig, especially when it's on its side, you can see where the jaw is. And we come in under it, not down here because we try not to stick the trachea. Your tip will hit the spine. You will find the spine with the tip of your knife. And when you do, if this is the edge of your knife and this is the spine, you would come in and rake this way. And when you do, you're going to be severing the carotid and the jugular arteries of the pig. We try to make a small stick. We don't open the thing up. We've done that before. And then all you're really doing then is also opening the pig up to like fecal matter or mud. It just becomes a mess, and that's unnecessary. We will have a bowl there and a spoon. We will capture the blood. We'll stir it continuously so that it doesn't clot more than necessary. We'll continue to stir that. I mean, someone will, not Andy or I. You will be stirring blood a lot for minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes until finally it's cooled down enough that it will have resisted the need to coagulate. We will often be on the front shoulder or the back ham pumping. And the reason we do that is while the heart is still beating, because the vital organs still beat for like 20 to 25 seconds after the pig has been shot. While the heart is still beating, we want to get as much blood out of the pig as we can. And the hardest place to get blood is out of the femur, like the femoral artery, which is the farthest from the stick point. It's hard to get blood out from there, and we're going to use that femur and ham for likely prosciutto. So we do our best to get as much of the blood out at that time as possible just by helping pump it. What kind of pigs? These are American guineas. These are American guineas. 150 to 175 is what he's estimating they both weigh. One's a little bigger than the other. Typically what we'll do is we'll dunk the back end of the pig down into the barrel and hoist it back out of the water and scrape like from the midsection down to the trotters and get it good and clean, and then take it off the gambrel, spin it around, and then the back end down into the water. I'm sorry, the head down into the water, and then scrape from the belly to the nose. With a smaller frame pig, you can dunk the whole thing in, and that would make things a little easier. The reason we dunk it that way is because with the ham down first and the head down second is because it's already hanging, it's already oriented in a way that we want to eviscerate it. So the second time after it's fully scraped, the head is already down, we take the head off, and then we eviscerate it. We don't use knives to scrape, we use old-fashioned hog scrapers. You can use a knife if you need to. Down here, I'd imagine you wouldn't have a hard time finding old bell scrapers. Now, I'll tell you, if you can't find them, go to antique stores. They will often not know what they're called or what they're for, and so they're just going to be labeled like a primitive tool. The water temperature matters. Anywhere between 47 and 151 is the window. Very similar to chickens, if you're familiar with like plucking chickens. And then we'll time it. We'll drop the pig down into the water for, say, 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes. And then we'll raise out of the water and we'll test it. And if it's ready, we'll scrape it right then. If it's not, we'll put it down for another 30 seconds. You don't want to overcook it by raising the temperature of the water or keeping it in too long, because again, it's kind of food you're dropping in there and you will cook it.
Triangle shape, the point of the triangle up here at the top. This is a female, so everything goes to the same cavity of the pelvis. If it were a male, the pizzle would be on the front, which Doug would release from the surface of the skin, and it actually comes on the underside of the pelvis. So we would open this up and pull the pizzle this way from the pelvis. That's the main difference. And then here, when I make these cuts, my main goal is to not cut into the bung, if we can help it, and try not to cut into too much meat, because the hams are right here, and he wants to dry cure his ham, so I don't want to cut into that if I can help it. It's mostly fatty at this point, but you can start to see here in a second where I will get to where the hams are, and I want to try to stay right beside the surface of the hams. And I'm not cutting down here along the bottom because the bung is right against the spine the way it's hanging here. And if I put my knife in here, chances are pretty good that I'm going to cut into it. So I'm going to release these two sides, and then when I get them released enough, I'm going to pull up and then scrape my knife along the spine to release the rest of it. And when you do it, be careful to keep your knife always slightly tilted away from where the intestines are. Most of the time at this end of the pig, it's pretty solid. You know, it's not like a chicken where it's just gonna spew everywhere. I'm getting it ready. What's that?
I like to go down to the sternum first, and I kind of go as deep as I can down to the sternum. The reason I do that is because if I cut through all the way up here until the guts are coming out, then they're in my way because of gravity, and now I've got to get my knife back in there. I don't want to do that. So I cut down through all this nice fat. So I find that guy right there. You can see it. It's called the linea. It's a really tough fibrous membrane that I can hear and feel with my knife, even if I couldn't see it. Now, it's not so tough that you can't go through it on accident, but it's what you're looking for. Everything else is fat. You go through fat real easy with a knife, and then you find the linea. You kind of want to slow down when you get to it. Once you find it, you know you're in good shape. There's going to be fat on the other side of that linea, and that fat is the leaf lard. If you're familiar, that's something pretty valuable that you're aiming to harvest. So once you're on the other side of the linea and you're looking at the leaf, then you can go up from there and know that you're in pretty good shape. You're not going to accidentally cut anything. You don't want to at this point, unless you're reckless. So we've already got all of the leaf exposed down to the sternum here. And then up here, you can kind of see it gets real thin. The linea does. You are not in damage of cutting into anything risky up here, because the pelvis is going to stop you. And you see how it opened up all by itself? I didn't even cut that. It tore all on itself, on its own. That's called the peritoneum. It's this real thin cellophane membrane. And it's what holds, it's like your last line of defense. I'm just going to barely touch that. I don't want to cut anything there. Once you're here to the peritoneum, you can use your fingers and get through pretty much all of it. A little bit at the end hanging me up. And the reason is because it's a little bit older of a pig. At this point, you should feel pretty confident in the weekend. The pig has been killed properly, the pig has been bled properly, it's been cleaned properly. Now your last thing that's like a major hurdle is not poking around in there and poaching something you don't want. So I need to get my hand in there. I keep my fingers together, just like Andy did on the backside, only I'm coming through the front side. He does a pretty thorough job, and the bung almost falls out on its own.
Very thorough.
He's very thorough. So I'm going to get my knife out, and I'm going to cut some of these connective tissues right here. See, there's the kidneys, there's 1 and 2, and I'm going to cut just in front of them. This is the spleen. That's the stomach. The liver, we're about to get to. It actually lays like this along the whole back of the rib cage. It has one thing on it that we're still looking for. Anybody know? Gallbladder, yes. So we don't want the gallbladder to rupture in there. It's not the end of the world if it does, but it's best if it doesn't. It's right there. So at this point, that's that. So the other side of the diaphragm are the heart and lungs. And there's the sternum right there. I'm going to cut on the other side so you can see it. It is, on all mammals to my knowledge, it's what is going to protect the heart. So the heart sits right inside that diaphragm, or right inside that sternum. Getting it out, the heart and the lungs, is not a real challenge. You just need to cut through the diaphragm enough to access it. We might use this hanger steak for food, which is why I'm not just tearing at it. But getting the lungs and the heart free all the way down to the trachea and the esophagus can be a bit of a sport. But just like with everything else that Andy did in the back and I did at the beginning there, is just using your fingers to separate the connective tissue from the organs and the walls of the cavity. Nothing about it is very technical. It's not a high skill sort of thing. You're just trying to separate as much as possible. A little better job. Use the last one. Andy! The hanger's in there and the diaphragm's in there. Everything else is gone. All you need to do is remove as much from the animal as you can so you're not cutting things blind. You don't want to do that. Otherwise, it's kind of intuitive. Cut where they're connected to the animal. There you go.
There you go, baby.
There it is.